Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing a Debian-based Linux distribution called BunsenLabs. BunsenLabs is a community continuation of the old Crunchbang Linux. For those of you that have been around Linux for a number of years, you may remember the old Crunchbang Linux distro. It was a Debian-based Linux distro as well. It featured the Openbox window manager and actually had a lot of popularity. For whatever reason, that project ceased to exist, but the community, being open source, took that code, forked it, went on, and we have BunsenLabs Linux. BunsenLabs is based on Debian Jessie. Now that is the old stable Debian. BunsenLabs comes pre-configured with the Openbox window manager, the Tent2 panel, and the conky system monitor. It has an assortment of harmonizing GTK2/3 themes, wallpapers, conky configs. Additional desktop, media, and hardware related packages come pre-installed to offer a better out-of-the-box experience. Alright guys, so I'm going to quickly go through the install process. I downloaded the ISO from BunsenLabs webpage. The ISO was only 855 megabytes in size, so pretty small ISO. The ISO was about 7 months old though, so there's going to be a lot to update once I'm through with the initial install process. I'm not going to go through all of that on this video because it would probably take an hour or more maybe to fully update the system, being that old of an ISO. But anyway, when you first load up BunsenLabs ISO, you're presented with the boot menu here. We have live failsafe, install, graphical install, and then the memory diagnostic tool, memtest. So to install the system, obviously we could use install, which is a text-based installer, I'm assuming, or the graphical install, which of course will have a GUI. I'm going to choose the graphical install. I think that's what most of you probably will end up running through. Alright, and the graphical installer has loaded up. It has correctly chosen English as our language, so just going to hit enter to continue. It has correctly chosen United States for my location. For keyboard, it has correctly chosen American English, so I'm just going to click enter. It says load installer components from CD. So we wait a minute while it loads these. Alright, it's configuring the network. Alright, it's asking me to enter a host name for this system. By default, it's going with Debian as the host name. I'm going to change that though. I'm going to change that to BunsenLabs -vbox. Something a little more appropriate than Debian. Alright, the domain name, well, we really don't need to set up a domain. Alright, set up users and password. For a user, I'm going to go with BunsenLabs. Username, BunsenLabs. Click continue. We need a password. Let me type a password. And enter. Alright, configuring the clock. I'm in the central time zone. Hit enter. Alright, it's partitioning the disk. Well, we haven't run through any kind of partitioning yet. Alright, we have the options of using the entire disk, just letting it automatically use the entire disk, which is what I'm going to do. I created a 15 gig hard drive in this virtual machine. I'm just going to let BunsenLabs have the whole thing. For those of you that need to do some partitioning, you would go down here to manual, and then you would manually set up your partitions. All this looks good. All files in one partition. Yeah, we do have the option. We could partition, a separate partition for our home folder. I'm not going to do that on this video. Alright, yeah, all looks good. It's going to create a swap for us to write changes to disk. Yes. So it's going to format the drive and start installing the system. I'm going to pause the video for a minute. Okay, the installation paused for a second, and it has asked me about installing the grub bootloader on the hard disk. Obviously, we do want to do that. It's going to ask me where to install it. I'm going to install it on /dev/sda, and the install is going to continue to run. Alright, the installation is complete, so it is time to boot into your new system. Make sure to remove the installation media, which in my case will be this ISO. I needed to remove it from my virtual machine. Reboot the system, and we should launch our freshly installed BunsenLabs. I'll be right back. Okay guys, I rebooted the machine, and now we are at our freshly installed BunsenLabs Linux. I type my password, we'll log in to our desktop here. This is the Openbox window manager here, and it is letting me know about my connection here. Alright, when you first launch BunsenLabs for the first time after installation, you're going to get this screen here, this hello screen. It says, "Hi, welcome to BunsenLabs Linux. This is an optional post-installation script designed to help you configure your new Linux installation and get the most out of BunsenLabs." What this is going to do, it is going to run through a whole bunch of stuff, extra stuff to install and configure. Most of it you're going to want to install and configure. Again, this ISO is about 7 months old too, so there's going to be an update run. It's going to do a apt update, apt upgrade kind of thing. It's going to ask about installing extra repos, some of which you're probably going to want. It's going to ask about installing, some third-party software, codecs, Adobe Flash, that sort of thing. I have run through this before. It takes, if I install everything that it asked me, about, which I chose to install it all, it took about an hour and a half to run through, this little installation script, and do everything it asks. I'm not going to do that on camera. It's dead simple to go through. You just hit enter, it asks you a question, you choose yes or no, hit enter, it installs some stuff, then it goes on to the next screen. Pretty straightforward. I'm not going to do that on this video, so I'm going to pause the video, and when I come back, it will be post installation script with everything, all the goodies installed. I'll be right back. Okay, and I'm back, guys, and this is BunsenLabs post installation script. I installed all the extra third-party software, any extra repos it asked me about. I just chose yes for all of it. It also got the VirtualBox guest editions working, so I've got a full screen resolution here to show you guys in this video. So I'm just going to go through some of the default programs installed on BunsenLabs. I haven't actually looked at it yet. I got the install done, but I haven't actually looked at any of the software installed by default on BunsenLabs, so this will be an initial walkthrough for me too. So it being Openbox, your menu is a right-click menu on the desktop. You just right-click anywhere on the desktop. Alright, the first thing we have is Run Program. Now this is a run command, so you click this, you get this little command prompt here that you can run a program. So if I wanted to launch say a terminal, I could do xterm. If it no such program on here, about Terminator. I think that's the terminal they went with on this. Yep, so that's how you would use the run command. Alright, our terminal, and I just showed you the terminal was Terminator. Our web browser, let's see what web browser they're using by default. It's Firefox. Actually, I got to choose between Firefox and Chromium in that post-installation script. I chose to install Firefox, but you guys also have the option of choosing Chromium in that post-installation script. Our file manager, let's see what file manager they've chosen to go with. Thunar. So Thunar is the file manager in the XFCE desktop environment. That's what they're using here. Text editor, they're using Genie as their text editor, which is an interesting choice for a text editor. Genie's a really good program, but it's more of a IDE, it's more designed for programmers, instead of just being a really basic text editor. It's got a lot more functionality to it. VLC is the media player. That is awesome. VLC is by far the best video player available on Linux, and when you have VLC installed on your system, you also get all the third-party codecs and stuff installed on your system too, which is why a lot of distros will not install VLC by default. Certainly if this was a Debian install or a Fedora install, you would never see VLC on the ISO for those distros, because they only ship with free software. VLC is, all those third-party codecs and stuff are not free, they're proprietary. Under accessories, we have our Catfish file search, we have an archive manager, we have the task manager, which is HTOP. HTOP is a fantastic terminal-based system monitor. I actually did a video about HTOP recently. System information, we have Blob Themes Manager. Let's see what that is. That's the BunsenLabs Openbox Configuration Manager. Okay, that's pretty cool. And let's see. Let me close that out. And under graphics, we have our screenshot utility, and then we have the options of installing some stuff. We have the options of installing View Noir, GPIC View, Ristretto, Geeky, GIMP, Blender, Inkscape, and Mandelbulber, whatever that is. Multimedia, of course, we have VLC again. We have the Xburn disk utility, disk burning utility is the disk burning utility that is installed in the XFCE desktop environment. So they're using a lot of XFCE stuff here, even though they're not using the XFCE desktop environment. All they're using is the Openbox window manager. And we do have the options to install some extra multimedia stuff like MPV, Audacious, MPlayer, Audacity, OpenShot. So that's pretty cool. You know, the ISO again was very small, 855 gigs, but I do love the how they in the menu have these links to install a lot of the popular software that you're probably going to want to install in the end. So network, we have our browser, which again I chose Firefox to be installed, but we do have the option of Chromium, Google Chrome Stable, and Opera. That's interesting, Opera. Not too many people use Opera anymore. FileZilla FTP client. We have the Transmission BitTorrent client. We have HexChat, which is an IRC client. Remote file systems, remote desktop. Under remote desktop, we have the options of installing Viewer and installing VNC server. Then we have some SSH stuff. It actually hasn't installed the OpenSSH SSH server and client yet, but you just click this link and it'll install SSH on your system. Under Office, we have Writer installed, but we do not have any of the other LibreOffice programs installed, but you do have the option of installing them. We have Google Docs, Numeric, which is a lightweight spreadsheet program, Calculator, and a PDF viewer. Under Places, this is just our home directory hierarchical structure here, our directory structure. If we click any of these links here, it should just, for example, I click Documents, it opens up the Thunar file manager at home/documents. Under Recent Files, I haven't launched anything, so there are no recent files here, but as I use Openbox here, this recent file menu will become populated. It is a dynamic menu in Openbox, so it's constantly changing. It will show your last 10, 15, whatever you set it to, recent documents you've played around with. Under Preferences, we have configuration for Openbox, of course, some compositing stuff. We have Conky, which is the system monitor on the top right here. Tent 2, which is our panel at the top. Really nice, lightweight panel. Appearance, which is... this looks like the LX Appearance program. I could be wrong about that. What else do we have? We have Choose Wallpaper. Let's see what wallpapers we have by default. Alright, for wallpapers it looks like we have, I don't know, about 30 or 40 maybe wallpapers to choose from here. Most of them have the BunsenLabs logo on it. Let me choose this blue one here. That's a really cool wallpaper there. How about this light green one here? Yeah, I like that too. That's pretty cool. Let's see if they've got any like photos, any kind of like nature or abstract art or anything. Yeah, they do have some abstract stuff here. How about this hydrogen blur here? Yeah, that's not bad. I'll stick with that for a second. Alright, under Preferences we also have Notifications, Power Management, D menu. For those that are not familiar with D menu, it's another run command program. GM run, and under Display we have some R&R screen layout editor stuff. We have help and resources, so we have some documentation here. And then key bindings. This is, key bindings for our Openbox window manager, which if you're wondering about some of the default key bindings that BunsenLabs has already set up, look at the conky right here. The bottom half, shortcut keys, has all the key bindings that have automatically been set up by BunsenLabs. So Alt F2 gets us to our run command. So that's pretty cool. Alt F3 gets us to D menu here, where I could launch a program at the bottom. Did you guys see at the bottom that popped up? So I could launch something here like, Firefox. So that is how D menu works. Let me get rid of this run command here. Looks like super and space opens up the Openbox menu without having to right click on the desktop. It's automatically been keyed to a keyboard command. So that's pretty cool. So all in all, what are my initial impressions of BunsenLabs? Well, I do love Debian, and probably my favorite floating window manager is Openbox. Love the Openbox window manager. That said, I'm not that thrilled about BunsenLabs, mainly because the installation process, I cut out about an hour and a half of it on the video. Now that initial graphical install that you guys saw in the video, pretty straightforward, but the post installation script that you have to run, and I say you have to run, it claims it's optional. It gives you yes or no, do you want to run it? You need to run that post installation script and install all the extra stuff. It's really not optional. You really need to install that stuff, guys. And that took an hour and a half for me to run through that entire script. So you're looking at an almost 2-hour install process. That's not good. This is based on Debian-Jessie. Again, that's the old stable Debian. So we're looking at really old packages. Now, I'm fine with that. I like stable distros, but there's stable and then there's really, really old and crusty. If I go to a terminal and do uname space -r to get the kernel version 3.16, that is a really old Linux kernel. So we're running really old stuff on this. So all in all, I think BunsenLabs, I think it's a good distro, but I think it is going to appeal to a very, very small percentage of the Linux population. For those that are wanting, a Crunch Bang or a BunsenLabs kind of experience, a nice pre-configured Openbox desktop, out of the box, everything's installed, just works. You're probably going to want to install something more like ArchLabs, which is Arch-based, but the install process for that was very fast, very simple. Also, being rolling release, everything is up to date, newer. Now obviously it's not going to be nearly as stable as something like BunsenLabs, which is based on Debian-Jessie, but still I think ArchLabs is probably going to appeal to a much larger percentage of the Linux population than BunsenLabs. But BunsenLabs, it fills a niche. I'm sure there are people that run it and love it. All in all, though, I give BunsenLabs an A on the installation and on the desktop. The really nice implementation of the Openbox window manager, I must say. Peace, guys.